Some questions cross a line the moment they're asked. I learned that the day Karen decided she was entitled to medical information that had absolutely nothing to do with her. My son had lived in our neighborhood for years. He was friendly, respectful, and known by most of our neighbors. Because of his disability, he occasionally used accommodations provided through approved community policies. Most people never questioned it. They understood that not every disability is obvious, but Karen was different. She seemed to believe that if she couldn't see a disability, then it must not be real. It started with comments whispered just loudly enough to be heard. "He looks fine to me. I don't understand why he gets special treatment." At first I ignored them. People make assumptions. It happens, but Karen's curiosity quickly turned into obsession. One afternoon, while my son and I were walking through the neighborhood, Karen approached us directly. "I need to see proof," she said without even saying hello. I stared at her, honestly unsure I'd heard correctly. "Proof of what?" I asked. Karen crossed her arms. "Proof that he's actually disabled." For a moment, everything seemed to stop. My son looked down immediately, clearly uncomfortable. And that's what made me angry. Not the question itself, but the fact that she had put him in that position. "That's none of your business," I replied calmly, but Karen shook her head. "If he gets accommodations, residents deserve to know why." The confidence in her voice was unbelievable. Like she genuinely thought she had the authority to demand private medical information from a child. "No," I said firmly. "Residents do not deserve access to anyone's medical records," but Karen wasn't backing down. "Then maybe he shouldn't be receiving special treatment," she replied. A few nearby neighbors had started paying attention. Conversation slowed. People looked over. The tension was impossible to ignore. My son stood quietly beside me, and I could see how uncomfortable he was becoming. That was enough. I ended the conversation immediately and walked away. But Karen didn't stop there. Over the next few days, she sent emails, filed complaints, and repeatedly demanded documentation she had absolutely no right to see. Every complaint carried the same assumption that she could force a family to justify a disability simply because she didn't personally understand it. What Karen didn't know was that our family understood exactly how to handle situations like this. We had dealt with accessibility issues before, we knew our rights, we knew privacy laws, and most importantly, we knew where authority begins and where it ends. Instead of arguing, we documented everything. Every email, every message, every demand. Then we responded through the proper channels. Within days, the situation shifted dramatically. Representatives reviewed the complaints and immediately recognized the problem. The issue wasn't my son's disability. The issue was Karen's behavior. Privacy protections exist for a reason. Medical information isn't public property, and demanding access to it without authority is completely inappropriate. When Karen was informed of this, her confidence disappeared almost instantly. "I was only asking questions," she said. But by then, the facts were clear. This wasn't curiosity, it was harassment. Neighbors who had quietly observed the situation started speaking up too. Several pointed out that my son had never caused problems. Others questioned why Karen had become so focused on a child in the first place. The narrative she had tried to create fell apart quickly. And as it did, something important happened. My son saw people standing up for him. Not because he needed defending, but because nobody should be forced to prove their worth or justify a disability to satisfy someone else's demands. A few weeks later, life had returned to normal. The complaints stopped, the emails stopped, the questioning stopped, and my son continued living his life exactly as he always had. One evening, as we walked through the neighborhood together, he looked up and asked, "Why did she care so much?" I thought about it for a moment before answering. "Some people think they're entitled to answers they were never meant to have." He nodded thoughtfully and kept walking. And as I watched him, I realized something important. Karen thought she was demanding proof, but what she actually revealed was how little authority she really had. Because rights, privacy, and dignity don't disappear just because someone demands to see them. And that was a lesson Karen learned the hard way.